Everything old is new again. America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, work like a dog for me.
Where's the goodies? Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
On Friday night, January 5, professional wrestling has a pleasure of returning to Long Island at the Nassau County Coliseum, and scheduled on the 5th of January, the likes of Chief Jay Strongbow, Peter Maivia will be on the card, and for that matter, so will the Russian bear Ivan Koloff. With that in mind, let's bring on the manager of Ivan Koloff. Standing now to my right, Captain Lou Albano.
Well, you know, anytime you have a card, you have Koloff on the card. It's got to enrich in the talent. I mean, and the card. It's magnificent to see an athlete such as his proportions. I mean, being on a card, any promoter in the world wants the man. They realize his great ability. They know his greatness in wrestling. He's a great weightlifter also, and it's proud to see an athlete in that type condition. You go in that ring and you look at him and you watch him. It's like poetry in motion. The man moves with the quickness of a cat. He's a 258-pound giant, and baby, it's great. Whew. Borden House Pie.
Captain Albano with the Borden House Pie, and with Ivan Koloff appearing in Long Island.
Yeah, welcome back to
What's Borden House Pie?
I don't know what that is.
What was that?
I don't know what that was. Anyway, we're here back here, and everything old is new again. With Douglas Viviani, with our very own Manager of the Year, David Cohen.
That's right. Remember Lou Albano? He was in a Cyndi Lauper video.
He sure
right?
was.
Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Absolutely. That is a good reference. Absolutely. He was my favorite wrestling manager. We're going back to the 1970s, continuing our show from last week, WWWF, before all the machinations of the world today. And yes.
So if he was your manager, do you know why he was Captain Lou Albano?
I believe he captained himself, or he pronounced himself a captain as if he was a pirate when he was a wrestler. So when he wrestled back in the 50s, he came out with pirate paraphernalia.
Oh, I see. So he was Captain Lou Albano, and when he managed, he dropped all the pirate paraphernalia.
Exactly.
Okay.
Every one of them
captain.
They all had to have something going for them, right? They all had some kind of a moniker or something, some hook. And
that's funny.
Anyway, we're looking at the wrestling. If you remember last week, we were trying to get and convince my dad to actually take us to the Nassau Coliseum, which is, again, I'm from Long Island. We were not going to go to Madison Square Garden. That was too big a trip. For a Thursday night or whatever it was. But Nassau Coliseum was 25 minutes away. It was easy. We could do it. Finally, Daddy got involved with that Peter Maivia and Bob Backlund rivalry. He saw them change and turn. He got upset.
Because Peter Maivia betrayed and turned on Bob Backlund.
Exactly. So here it is Friday night. Dad comes home from work, and he's got tickets in his hand for the Nassau Coliseum. He had to go to Ticketron, remember? Wait in line. He had to go to Ticketron. You weren't getting them, remember? Either that or he would walk to the gate. But he went to Ticketron because he was not going to not plan it, so he had to plan. And then, but as he's coming in, he comes in with this, and I'm probably about 14 at the time, and he comes in with this 15-year-old girl from his office and 4 tickets. And we're like, Dad, this is Gina. Who is Gina? Gina, his employee's daughter. The employee that he worked for him had some kind of an emergency and asked my dad to watch Gina for the night, and they'll be back home. And my dad said, well, we're going to wrestling. He said, well, you could take her to wrestling. It's okay, whatever. So as a favor to an employee, and they were very close. This employee was with my dad like 20 years. Said, okay, I guess we'll do that for the night. And so Gina was coming along with us, so I don't know how that was going to work out, but whatever. But she sort of got my eye, caught my eye a little bit there. Anyway, the 4 of us are off to the Nassau Coliseum.
How old was Gina?
She was 15, I was 14.
Okay.
So, yeah. So
there we go.
Baron von Ruschke against Big John Studd was the first match. Do you remember any of these guys?
Big John Studd. Oh, God, I remember those guys.
Oh, excuse me. Stan the Man Stasiak. So that was the opening match. We get to Nassau Coliseum. Now, you'd have to pay for programs And I think it was like, either to us, it was, in my world, we Met game, whatever we went to, I don't know if it was like with you. My dad would say X amount of dollars. In today's dollars, let's say it was $10 today's dollars. You have $10 to spend on a hot dog or a program, whatever you want, but there's your $10, right? Maybe in today's world it's $20. It's pretty expensive these days, but whatever. So you had a budget.
50.
And but I was not going to spend my budget on the program. None of us chose that. So honestly, it was weird. None of us knew who was on the card. None of us knew.
Oh, I see. So you didn't know going in. It wasn't advertised.
No, it's not on the internet. If you didn't, you heard those promos, but we didn't hear the promo for this particular one. You don't know who's going to. They didn't advertise.
You just knew the main match, but not the.
We didn't even know that sometimes, but we didn't even know that in this situation. We had no idea who was going to be.
I thought you were going to see Peter Maivia.
We thought so, but we didn't know it. We didn't know who was going to be. I know that was the promo, but that wasn't the promo of the night we went. That was just a promo.
Oh, so your dad was going, but I thought your dad was expecting to see this big match.
Of course, we all are. Absolutely.
But you weren't sure that it was actually going to happen that night?
Well, but how do you know? It's not in the newspaper. It's not on the card. It just says wrestling. Your ticket says wrestling. You think it is going to be there. Anyway, we'll get there.
It's really strange.
Yeah.
And you guys are doing something wrong. Okay, but so you just went on a whim, hoping that you would see this match.
Correct. And we were hoping maybe we'd see Bruno, too. Like, it was always in the back of our mind. Right. Can we see Bruno? Like, Bruno carries the day, for this
Sure.
League. Anyway, so here's the opening match. A little something here.
Or his eyes. No, he's got the claw on him.
The claw.
He's got the claw on Stud's forehead. In the Baron von Raschke. He's got the claw.
All right, it is. It was Big John Studd, Baron von Raschke with the claw. Remember the claw? He would get you right on that forehead and hold the claw on your forehead till you'd pass out.
And that was legal?
That was legal.
Never understood that.
That was the legal move, and that was the first match, and it was followed by Stan the Man Stasiak with the heart punch. Remember this? Remember the heart punch?
Look, that hand going for that heart punch. Caught him. Caught him with the heart punch.
He'd hold your arm back over your head and punch you in the heart. That was the heart punch. So we've got
that was Stan the Man Stasiak?
Yes. So we've got these two matches with these two crazy holds, and this girl's sitting here, and I'm sitting next to her. I'm explaining to her the holds and what this is and how it hurts someone, and she's like looking, and she's befuddled. Like, what is this nonsense?
What am I doing here?
Who are these people? Why am I here? Why am I at Nassau Coliseum?
These nerds taking me to this thing.
And why am I listening to this guy now? This is crazy. What is this?
You and the rest of these pencil neck geeks, as of right now, are looking at the fashion plate of wrestling. Freddie Blassie, the maker of champions. I took Nikolai Volkov when he was a raw recruit, shaped and molded him into the most feared wrestler today. You understand? So don't give me none of this Johnny-come-lately stuff about Bruno Sammartino, the living legend, or Chief J. Strongbow, this great Indian chief, or this big fat blubberguts, Haystacks Calhoun, or this other pencil neck geek, Gorilla Monsoon, or Tony Garea, or Dean Ho. You got a bunch of idiots. That's what I say, a bunch of idiots. As I look out over here, I can't see one intelligent face. So I don't even know why I'm taking my time to talk and try to educate these idiots. These are a bunch of people. You put them up, you tell them, jump. They don't even know what you're talking about. They go, just take a look at them. A bunch of juvenile delinquents, a bunch of idiots, a bunch of pencil neck geeks.
So Freddie Blassie comes out, Nassau Coliseum, and literally insults the entire crowd, including this girl sitting next to us. And she's like, "What? Who is this guy? Why is he calling me a pencil neck? What's a pencil neck geek? I know how to jump. What is he? What's going? Like, think about it to a person that has no idea what this is about. And I'm trying to explain to her as a 14-year-old, in my little puppy love, trying to explain what this is all about. And out comes Dino Bravo.
Bravo sends it to the rope one more time and into the airplane spin. And watch Bravo go. Dumps him down. Hose him over. Lifts the leg. 2 and on the 3. Off showing no mercy at all.
Remember this now? The airplane spin?
The airplane spin, sure.
Which was what?
It's just what it sounds like. You spin a guy up in the air and
over your shoulders, and he's the the propeller, for lack of a better description, right? So she's seeing that. I mean, she's been exposed to all this stuff and trying to get her all hopped. Then you got George the Animal Steel. Oh, my God.
For a corner pass turnbuckle. Look at this. And Pete Sanchez. All in his face, ripped in the eyes and the nose, all up in the nostrils, in the mouth. Look at the animal. He's got the whole pad over, running it down his throat, right down his throat.
She's literally seeing a guy eat the belt buckle. Remember George the Animal Steel? He'd rip that belt buckle with the two pieces of the corners of the belt come together. There's a pad, and he takes that pad out, and the interior padding stuff is all over this guy. This is like an inauspicious beginning. Like, we've got a lot going on here, and I don't know how to explain any of this. This girl's eyes are wide open, and my brother and my dad are sort of like actually enjoying it. It's a lot of action. There's a lot of
I'm sure you are.
And we'll be back right at this. Everything else do again. Continue another session, another segment, another time, another continuation of this event that we went to go see, the Nassau Coliseum. Who is going to be on the card?
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to make reference, if we may, once again, to one of the finest publications, I believe, not only in professional wrestling, but one of the finest periodicals produced anywhere in the world. As a matter of fact, it's the only presentation, to my knowledge, that's all color. 24 pages in this Wrestling Action issue number 2, ladies and gentlemen. And there you see the living legend, Bruno Sammartino, the man who, for 17 years, represented, perhaps as no other wrestler has ever represented, professional wrestling.
We're back here, and Everything Old is New again at the Nassau Coliseum, 1977. I am there with my dad, my brother, and a young lady named Gina that we really don't know who she is. She's a friend of my dad's co-worker.
But you're trying to impress her.
I'm trying to impress her, and the problem is I'm trying to impress her at the Nassau Coliseum watching professional wrestling. So it's a rough task, but she's starting to move a little bit. She heard the name Bruno Sammartino in that promo in between matches, and she seemed to know who that was. You know, I think, by the way, back in the day, almost like, you tell me, don't you think a lot of people knew Bruno? They even weren't.
Yeah, it was he was a pretty common name. I mean, household name. Even if you didn't follow wrestling, you knew the name Bruno Sammartino.
Exactly. So again, we don't know who's on the card, what's on the card. We didn't spend for that. But I got up and I got a hot dog for her and for myself and soda, whatever, and we're doing okay. And all of a sudden, a ton, and I'm talking about 20 wrestlers. We both go out, I should say, to get the hot dogs. We come back, there are 20 wrestlers in the ring.
It is time for the Battle Royal.
Battle Royal.
Yes.
In this event, the wrestlers will be in the ring. Process of elimination, when a wrestler is thrown over the top rope onto the floor. He is eliminated, no re-entry allowed. This process continues until there is one man remaining, and he will be the winner.
How about that? Remember those? Do you remember the Battle Royale?
Those are great. So you get all these wrestlers in the ring at the same time, and it was like last man standing, basically.
Yeah. I love those. But who always won them if he was in a Battle Royale? Who was always the winner? Do you remember this?
Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant was always the winner, but he wasn't in it. So like, oh, where's Andre? Whatever. Who's in this? So you have these a lot of them, by the way, in the Nassau Coliseum. Out of 10, maybe 12 are these Baron Miguel Saglunas and these, Dino Bravos and these nondescript guys. Oh, Bravo was kind of big for a while. Right? I mean, and then you've got, I don't remember who it was, but Chief J and K-Stax Calhoun and Gorilla Monsoon and and I'm trying to explain to her, but I did not have to explain the rules. There they were. And she kind of got into it. Now she looks like she's getting into it, this girl. And so that's kind of cool. Little by little, she's getting sucked into the aura of professional wrestling. And then there's this new guy comes along. This is now, it was late 70s, yeah. So there's a new guy. Now, you would not believe this, but tell me who this was. It was just sometimes between matches they do a promo. Just the promo. This person was not going to wrestle that day. And now this person comes up.
The incredible Hulk Hogan, over 320 pounds,
The biceps, 24 inches and counting. And this is an incredible individual indeed who makes his wrestling debut in Madison Square Garden against not a bodybuilder, not a weightlifter as such, but a fine wrestler in Ted DiBiase.
And I've already instructed the man and told him what he can expect from Ted. And now I'd like to get the words from the Hulk mouth himself.
Let me tell you something, Fred. Nose to nose and toes to toes, there's not a man alive that can get in a squared circle and pin me to the mat. And Ted DiBiase, you're making a mistake of your life. You are planning your destiny. I will definitely eliminate you from the squared circle in a professional wrestling career from now on.
A very confident Hulk Hogan making his wrestling debut in Madison Square Garden against Ted DiBiase.
That's a clear 2 or 3 years before he became the Hulk Hogan. Isn't that interesting? Because I remember seeing him, and and he had the hair shaved a certain way on his chest. It was weird, like a little box on his chest. His hair was shaved. You remember that?
I remember that.
Oh my God, he was a different guy, and you could hear the interview skills were horrible, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that cool? So
wow,
we saw Hogan.
That is cool. So you saw him.
Saw him at Nassau Coliseum, just do a quick promo. And I was like, oh, man, that guy, like, that's an interesting guy. That's a huge guy. You know what? I bet you that guy would do well, and beat Bruno. Like, I started to have some animosity towards Bruno, because is he here tonight? Am I ever going to get to see this guy? What's happening with this Bruno Sammartino? Why everybody's always hopped up and talking about him? But all right, so I let it go. So then we had the another match, which was pretty cool. A 6-man tag team. Do you remember these? 6-man. You'd have like a tag team group, which would be like Tony Garea and Tony Zbyszko, and they added Haystacks Calhoun, all 450 pounds of him, to their team.
It was like 3-on-3 tag team.
Exactly. And let's hear a little, we got into that. Let's see how that went.
The tag rope wraps around.
Of course.
The throat. Tony Garea coming over to help out, or certainly to lodge a complaint, but referee Dick Worley's attention diverted. And that rope was, a moment ago, wrapped right around the neck of Larry Zbyszko.
So they're using that rope, the tag team rope.
Calhoun with the elbow. Moose Monroe slung all around that ring now. And Larry Zbyszko finds his mark. Tony Garea tagged and now steps through. Off the rope. There's an abdominal stretch by Tony Garea. And Monroe submits before Vachon can do anything about it.
So you had like these nondescript guys they fought against, because how much money did the WWWF have, kind of? Like, they had Garea, Zbyszko, and Haystacks in one team, and the other guys was some guy named, what was that guy named? Monroe? It was just like...
Yeah, there was always some guy, like from Patterson, New Jersey, some nondescript guy you've never heard of.
It had three nondescript guys against that team.
Probably made like, what, $20 a match or something?
Exactly. But you felt fulfilled, though, and they were using the rope. There used to have a rope. You'd have to hold on to this rope if you were in the tag team on the opposite side of the
right.
And so they would bring somebody to that corner and wrap the rope around his neck and choke him. Yeah. So you'd like to see the satisfaction of the justice given, because that's not the right thing to do. I mean, come on. So she's still sort of getting into it. I'm getting into it. It's actually a pretty good match. Then we've got Greg the Hammer Valentine comes out. You remember this guy?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Returning to the Philadelphia Spectrum will be Chief Jay Strongbow. Looking forward to meeting the master of the figure 4 leg lock, Greg Valentine. Greg Valentine meeting the one individual whom he thought he would never have to meet again, making reference to, of course, Chief Jay Strongbow.
You're absolutely right. I never thought I would see the likes of Chief Jay Strongbow again. But I noticed one thing. Strongbow right now is wearing a brace on that leg, that left leg that I broke with a figure 4 leg lock. If you're in such good top shape and top condition, Strongbow, why you got a brace on your leg?
All right, now this is a strange thing. This girl's looking at you like, what do you mean this guy broke someone's leg doing this sport? Like, and how do you explain to someone that, well, he really didn't break his... Well, he just said he broke his leg. Well, he really didn't break his leg. It's Chief Jay, and they're just, kind of... fooling around and whatever.
None of this is real.
It's not an easy sell, right? I mean, what would you do? Where would you go with this if you were going to try to have someone like think that you're not in the wrong place. Like, you now, put it this way, we're in the wrestling facility. We're watching wrestling. It's our first time ever. We're not pros at this. We've just seen it on TV a couple of times. But there's this new element of this kind of stranger that's with us that you're trying to impress. So that show basically is a representation of you. Like, whatever happens in that show, she thinks you are sort of supporting. Does that make sense? So
it does, sadly.
So in some way, I've got to either explain or ignore what's going on. And how do you explain Greg to have a Valentine saying that I broke your leg, but I didn't do enough damage. I need to put you out of commission next time. This is a sport? What?
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, so that's where we're at this point in time. When we get back, we're going to continue a little look at my first experience at the Nassau Coliseum, watching and enjoying, I guess you could say, the wrestling at the WWWF in the 1970s. We'll be back right after this, find out who's the manager of the year.
All right, so Doug, people have been saying, hey, I could find you guys on YouTube. You have your own YouTube channel. I can find you on Facebook. But what about other social media? Do you exist anywhere else in the social media universe?
Yes, we do. We're on Instagram and we're on Twitter. At the same thing, you go at EONA Show. That's Everything Old is New Again. The initials, right? So it's EONA Show. And that's it, at EONA Show. You got Instagram, Twitter, and I'll tell you, we post pictures, behind-the-scenes stuff, trivia questions, contests, notes about the show, so you have a lot of fun. Subscribe to us, friend us on Facebook if you can, and subscribe to the YouTube, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
That's fun. I'm going to even start doing that.
It might be worth your while. You can actually know what we're going to do next week.
Good.
At EONA Show. That's at EONA Show. Everything Old is New Again been on, and we're growing and growing in stations and all that. Do you feel anything with regard to this particular show in terms of your experience that we've going to be successful? We're ending tomorrow, or anything in between?
No.
And then we'll go into some predictions you have.
I wouldn't say anything like that, but I would say this because of this spark and the chemistry you both have. You've really touched on a new idea. It's based on an old concept, but it's new and refreshing. And I even if you change and detour along the way, I really think that you have something that's going to awaken in people a refreshing intrigue. People will want to hear more about it, especially with what you're doing now is adapting it to the present. Because again, we can learn from the past and apply it to the present. I'll give you a perfect example in my work. One of the big predictions.
The way you are, I'm telling you, Mr. Sammartino, Bruno made an observation watching you in that squared circle. He thought you never looked better.
Well, a compliment from Bruno Sammartino, the living legend, is something to be proud of. If Bruno says that means that I've really come a long way.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. I wonder what Bruno would say about our show now, our discussion of the wrestling in 1970s, the WWWF.
He'd be into it, of course. Yeah.
We're not saying anything disparaging. We're kind of rolling with this. We're enjoying it, right? So there's your buddy Ivan Putski, right? And, of course, he's talking Bruno. Everyone's talking Bruno at this Coliseum. And I'm sort of like, all right, well, is Bruno, if they're talking Bruno, maybe he should be here tonight then. Maybe he'll be here, We don't have the card. We don't know who's doing what. But they do have the results. I remember this distinctly, of the manager of the year. And the
results.
The results. Okay. They had all four managers up there. Remember, there's this guy, what's his name? Arnold Scarland, whatever, which is Bruno's manager. Is another indication maybe Bruno's going to be there for the night. Because his manager's here. Anyway, so the four managers are there. They eliminate the Grand Wizard. They eliminate Freddie Blassie. I can't give everything here. But then they all of a sudden get to the end.
Third runner-up, ladies and gentlemen, is Fred Blassie. Fred Blassie. I got about 50,000 more votes from the Health Club. The European Health Club going to put in 50,000 more votes. The votes contest is not ended as of tonight. Fred Blassie. It's supposed to be next week, please. The
The Grand Wizard. It's the greatest robbery since the Briggs job. You'll hear from my attorneys on it. You'll hear from my attorney. Two principals, Mr. Albano, if I may have you here, Mr. Skolin. Ladies and gentlemen, the first runner-up, Lou Albano. Here to my right, Arnold Skolin. Arnold, this has to be the happiest moment of your life, I'll tell you. You worked hard, you worked long for this, and I think one of the most well-deserving individuals to ever.
I have to tell you what happened. What do you think happened? What did Captain Lou do?
Oh, a whole melee, a fight broke out. Sure.
Captain Lou took a chair and slammed over Arnold Scolin's back as being interviewed by Vince McMahon, and all heck broke loose. It was.
So they were accusing of. There were accusations of voter fraud.
That's right.
That's right.
The more things stay the same, the more what do we say? More things.
It's amazing how the country has started to mimic wrestling of the 70s.
Exactly.
There's a lot of common threads there.
You see, everything old is new again. You see. I mean, even in politics. I mean, that was funny though. And then, but I turned to this girl, and she's horrified that this guy Skolin is getting beat up
with a chair.
She's like, "Isn't that Bruno's manager?" And I turned to her. How did she know that? How did she know that was Bruno's manager? I have no idea. But yeah, that was Bruno's manager. And then she was horrified that he was beat up as bad as he was. So all right. So we then kind of, in these things, there's like a lot of matches. You just move on.
I was gonna say, how many matches did you see?
We saw a lot.
Endless.
Yeah, a lot of them were short, but you move on. The next match. One of my favorites was the steel cage. The steel cage comes back.
Oh, you saw a steel cage?
Yeah, I saw a steel cage. Listen to this.
Hammering it out on the top rope. Somebody's going to fall outside the cage. The feud culminating in this type match, as we said before, not a pretty match at all. Not a match for the squeamish.
Not a match for the squeamish. Bob Backlund.
Match for the squeamish.
Bob Backlund against Stan Hansen. Back in the day, you know what they also did, and this is what we saw, and she was horrified, and I had to try to explain this, was there was blood on the guy's forehead, Stan Hansen. Do you remember what they used to do? There was a lot of blood.
Or something?
They would have blood packets, or they would have a razor, right? And they'd have the razor in their hand at one point, just cut their forehead, and they would bleed from the forehead. If you ever watch old wrestlers, their foreheads are all cut up. So she's now looking...
So they would literally cut themselves with a razor?
Yeah, absolutely. So she's looking at this thing. She's got blood. She's got another guy talking about, I broke this guy's leg, but not good enough.
She saw somebody hit someone else with a chair.
With a chair. Arnold Skolin hit with a chair. Got the foreign, the thing around the guy's neck, of Larry Zbyszko's neck, right? I mean, it was hard to defend. And then you got Freddie Blassie, just all over the place, like chaos. And then comes this match. Killer Kowalski. I'll let you listen to it.
Killer Kowalski come out with a handling victory there now. They've got him locked up into the corner. Jay Strongbow coming over to help out. Trying to take down Killer Kowalski. Action inside the ring as well as out. Pandemonium has broken loose.
All right, so there was Killer Kowalski against Chief Jay Strongbow. We're getting close to the main match of the night. We had this guy, Rivera, I don't know who it was, came into the ring and start beating up Strongbow. Strongbow seemed to get beat up all the time before he got his comeuppance. Like he would get some power, some strength, right? But you didn't hear it there, but the locker room emptied into the ring, which is what you love.
My favorite moment, when the locker room empties. They come out in street clothes.
Yes.
And
in comes Ivan Putski, who we've seen previously. And I'll never forget this. And they come in, there's we make it sound like there's 20 guys. There's like 3 or 4 guys come in. So the fourth guy coming in is Ivan Putski. He's got his clothes on, but half on. He's like getting dressed, on the way out. And he's got a suitcase, a little suitcase with him. Like it's maybe 2 feet by 3 feet suitcase. I don't know why he's carrying a suitcase with him. He brings a suitcase in with him. Killer Kowalski grabs the suitcase from him, which is closed. He slams it over Ivan Putski's head, opens up the 2 locks on the luggage, opens it up, and there's some underwear, and amidst the underwear is Ivan Putski's head. He slammed his luggage over his head.
Oh, so his head went through the luggage.
His leg went through the luggage, and he opens it up, and there's his head with the underwear. It could be more humiliating. It was
So it's a closed big piece of luggage, and he brings it down over Ivan Putski's head. It's still closed, and he opens the lid, and there's Ivan Putski's head because his head went through the bottom.
Correct.
Yeah.
Amongst underwear and socks and stuff.
And underwear. Yeah, all the humiliating personal items.
It was one of the most memorable locker room brawls that I have ever seen. It was so freaking funny. It was unbelievable.
Now, was Gina laughing at that?
At that point, she left. She was smiling. We were all laughing at it because even though Putski gets beat up and you're upset about that, Ivan Putski was a kind of a guy you could laugh at and with. Like, he heard him singing, he was singing before and all that.
He was a bit of a buffoon. Right?
Exactly. And then Chief, of course, later on, Chief Jay Strongbow gets like Hulk does sometimes, he gets
he goes on the warpath.
Right, that's what it is. He got on the warpath. And his knee starts moving, right? And clicking up and down, and while Killer Kowalski's all over everybody. So Strongbow finally gets this power from everyone cheering in the audience, right? And so he goes on the warpath, and he starts beating everybody up. The ring clears of everybody except for his allies, right? The 2 or 3 guys. Maybe Larry Zbyszko's there, Tony Gurria. And there's Ivan Putski in the corner, just almost passed out with this thing on his head, So Strongbow comes over, takes it off of him, picks him up, helps him out, holds him hand up in the air, and the place is going crazy. For no real reason did any of this really happen. There was no real. It was just a match, and they just ended up
It got out of hand.
And I love that he says, and there was pandemonium.
Well, that was Vince McMahon's. Yeah, he had a few big catchphrases. That pandemonium is broken loose.
Exactly, that was it. And then before we get to the final match, we've got classy Freddie Blassie takes the microphone again.
And Bruno Sammartino is one of the most vain men I've ever seen. This was a fellow that prided himself on being so strong. He was the world's strongest wrestler when he was world champion. He was this, he did that. He pressed 628 pounds. But then when he sees my champion here, Nikolai Volkov, the strongest man in the world, he just cringes. He wants to hide underneath the table. Bruno Sammartino, you never seen the day. You never seen the day you were half as strong as this man. You know the trouble with these Italians? When they reach the age of 30, they keep eating all that spaghetti and drinking that lousy stinking wine that those Italians eat. And then they just grow old. They don't want to go to the gymnasium and work out no more. They've had that easy life. But I guarantee you, he could work out from now till doomsday, and he couldn't even become half as strong as one side of Nikolai Volkov.
Now, this Gene is Italian also, so we're all all up in arms. This what kind of...
Yeah, that was, wrestling back then was obviously very politically correct, very aware of what they were saying and doing.
Well, it's the day of Don Rickles, too. I mean, I'm not saying it was the right thing to do by any means.
Chief Jay Strongbow, the warpath, it was so bad. And he wasn't even a Native American in real life.
Yeah, he was an
just
Italian.
Terrible. But anyway, okay, so he just insulted Italian Americans, and you're all sitting there.
She's horrified. We're all horrified, but we knew it was coming sooner or later, But again, it's all about Bruno.
Right.
Everybody's harping back to Bruno, liking Bruno, not liking Bruno. Everyone's talking about Bruno. Is Bruno the match? Is he coming in? But she was horrified by the discussion of the Italians and the talking about Bruno that way, how fat he's getting and everything from the pasta. We'll be back right after this and finish the match of matches, see what happens at the Nassau Coliseum 1977. Come on back. Everything old is new again.
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Let me take that too, Andre. Andre, Fred Blassie claims that Hulk Hogan has defeated every man that you have defeated, but it took him less time to do that. Your reaction to that?
I know, we have to come in one point, we have to go in the ring together. Because he said he's undefeated, but I'm the one that undefeated here only two, okay?
Wait a minute. What did you say?
I said if Andre's got any guts, he'll agree to wrestle my man next week.
Anytime you want. And I accept that challenge.
I won it.
There we go. So we're at the Nassau Coliseum. This is late 1970s. We heard from the Hulk previously. Now we see Andre's in the building. We haven't seen Andre fight yet. So something's happening. Sometimes these guys show up and they don't actually wrestle. They just do promos. So there's a Hulk starting off. Back in the day, he didn't even talk. They had Freddie Blassie speaking for him. And it was just like, it was, so now we don't know what's going to go on here tonight. We're almost done. We've got we've got that promo, and then Superstar Billy Graham comes out.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, he was huge, and he had something to say. Here we go.
And now, out of the goodness of his enlarged, big, mammoth heart, Superstar Billy Graham has consented just this one time, depending on how your demeanor is. He has condescended to personally speak to you, and I hope you consider this the great honor that it is.
Mr. Graham?
How do the people on the East Coast feel? Sucking on your soda pops, eating your French fries. How do the women feel? The ladies right now looking at this body. How do the husbands and the boyfriends feel? Jealousy, envy. Because I'm the women's pet and I'm the men's regret. I want to know how Bruno Sammartino feels right now, sitting at home in his overstuffed easy chair. Bruno Sammartino, Superstar Billy Graham, the superstar, the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that's too sweet to be sour, is talking to you. Fat pot belly, out of shape, white skin. Do you see this suntan, Sammartino? This is a California suntan. I got this suntan in Death Valley where it's 150 degrees, running in the desert. Every morning, lifting thousands of pounds, training hours on end without stopping, drinking mineral water, eating all my steaks raw. I don't even cook my meat. For one reason, Sammartino, for you.
All right, so now we know Sammartino's not in the house. He's talking about Sammartino sitting home, number one.
He's sitting home.
Number two, I think, now this is just a theory as an aside, Hulk was in the building. Superstar's in the building. Hulk is just starting his career. He's not even talk. He can't. We've heard him talk. He's not doing a good interview. Superstar. I'd rather hear Superstar talk than wrestle. Even I think the guy is hysterical. I'm just wondering, do you feel like he's talking about the food and the minerals and do you have any inclination? I'm just throwing this out there. I have no idea. Do you think the Hulk picked up like some of that from Superstar? Some of his, had the vitamins and, and all that stuff like he used to be. I don't know. Can you see any influence of Superstar on
Yeah,
Hulk?
of course.
I can,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
I just think we saw the genesis there of the changing of the guard in some ways.
Right.
And we all know that Hulk came around a couple years later. What was it, 79, 80, when WrestleMania came around and the whole world changed, But this is before then. And there it was. And so I turned to Gina and I just was, saying the same kind of thing in a different way. Just, I didn't foreshadow it. I just like, I really like this guy, Superstar. Superstar is really cool. He has some great matches with Bruno, and she just was horrified. She's like, that guy? You like that guy? Like, I liked the personality of Superstar because I knew it was a goof, but he's in the 150-degree weather. He's lifting thousands of pounds. All for you, Bruno, because he wants to beat you up.
Right.
But she was horrified. She's like, that guy? You like that guy? So I knew, it just was not really going too well with this young lady. It didn't matter at this point. It was like this. You cannot explain wrestling. You cannot be under the aura of 1970s wrestling and impress a young lady, no matter how you try. Let's put it that way. Right? That ain't happening. Does that make sense?
Not this one, anyway.
or not, because all of a sudden we had the match of the matches. We mentioned it before, but this is the match of the night, the main event. Andre the Giant.
Maybe adjusting over in the corner.
Ladd going in the tights, perhaps just adjusting his tights.
Against Ernie Ladd.
More than likely, big pattern. Yes! Ernie Ladd with a very controversial right thumb. It's taped. Many people feel that Ladd on occasion will conceal something in that thumb as a result of what we're seeing here with Andre the Giant reeling around. Obviously, there is something in that thumb. Look at that, Andre. A dose of his own medicine.
There you go. So Andre turned him around, gave him a little piece of his own medicine. That crowd went crazy. We had the night of nights. She's asking me, how tall is this guy? How many pounds and whatever. Andre the Giant sort of saved the day. He just, the whole crowd was, when you're in an environment with 17,000 people and everyone's screaming happy, positive, like cheering this match on because this guy finally gets this thumb, sort of in his own face instead of sticking to somebody else's because Andre was so strong. It's a great experience. People are high-fiving, everybody's spilling their sodas there. Everyone. It's the night of nights. We finally got a nice event. It ends on a nice event. Everyone's smiling. We walk out. As we walk out, now here's the thing they used to do, which was pretty smart. They would hand you a piece of paper as to the next event. And the next event was Madison Square Garden. Bruno was going to be up against Nikolai Volkov, and amongst other matches. And so now you just come off that high of Andre, right? And you go, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, Dad'll take us to Madison Square Garden if it's on a weekend to see Bruno against Nikolai Volkov. That was the thought. So anyway, we take this.
And did he?
Well, no. We take this girl home, and my father says, just walk into the door and nothing, just make sure that, everything's okay. So I go to the door. She rings the bell. Door opens. There's this, as we're getting to the door, I see in the window this silhouette of a big kind of a guy, Anyway, so she rings the doorbell. The door opens, and I swear, you're not going to believe me. I swear to God, her uncle answers the door. Her uncle, Bruno Sammartino.
Yeah, come on.
I'm not kidding.
Come on.
I'm not kidding.
Come on.
I can ask my father. I am not kidding.
Her uncle is Bruno Sammartino, and he opens the door.
He opens the door, and then I ask him. I don't know what to say to this guy.
I don't know what I would say to him either.
I have the piece of paper in front of me from the Nassau Coliseum that he's upcoming fighting Ivan Koloff. So
right.
I just point to it and I go, I can't get the words out. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the Nassau Square Garden or to watch the match of Ivan Koloff. He answers and he just like looks at me like, who are you and whatever, and then he says this.
There's going to be no fear of strength because from the time the bell rings or before, if the opportunity presents itself, I'm going to come after this guy. I'm going to attack him. I'm going to come up with everything that I have, and I'm going to throw it at him because I'm not interested in strength. All I'm interested is in one thing, and that is to destroy Nikolai Volkov and to make him regret. And for the rest of his life, he's got to, no matter where he goes, he's got to realize that the biggest mistake he ever did in his life was to humiliate Sammartino on TV.
as he goes into this diatribe, he closes the door, and I walk away and go,
come on, he didn't go into that.
Of course, I taped this from YouTube, but he went into a diatribe while I was there, just about Nikolai Volkov, and he's going to beat him up and be there and whatever. We walked to the car. The night was over. Wrestling was over. I could not make a good impression upon this young lady because she was already in love with wrestling. She was in love with her uncle. She was in love with Bruno Sammartino.
Why was she asking so many questions about wrestling? I mean,
she had never been to a match, but she had been horrified by all the discussions of all the put-downs that you would hear during the
I don't know. This sounds like a tall tale.
It was legit. You can ask my brother. She was the niece of Bruno Sammartino, and mother worked for my father.
Maybe I buy that she's the niece of Bruno Sammartino. All right. Okay, I'm with you there. You did not bring her up to the door, and Bruno Sammartino's waiting in her house and opens the door. That you added that.
No, I didn't. 6 Hills, Long Island. I'm telling you, he was just visiting. He doesn't live there. He was visiting.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. That's my experience. That's really just a sample of wrestling in the 70s. A little something, a little fun that we used to have. and something that I don't think you get those personalities and those managers and all that stuff now. Do you have any inclination to get back into wrestling at all since let's say the 80s?
No.
Yourself? Yeah. We've missed that train, right? We would never come back.
Yeah. And none of it's real. So, yeah. I'm into sports where, things are actually happening in real life, not scripted.
Right, exactly. Well, so there it is. We're complete through our investigation and dive into all things wrestling WWWF 1970s. Good night, goodbye. I think it'll be a time that we'll never see ever happen again. It's not on my schedule. I will not be going to any of these wrestling matches at the Coliseum, right? Anytime soon, or Madison Square Garden. It's just something we've lost, something that's gone by.
They're good memories, good childhood memories.
Yeah, but it's a time gone by. Like it's a shame. Like things happen. But
why is it a shame? Why is that a shame? If it was the same, would you be going now to see this?
That's true. It's one less thing that I have on my calendar that I need to actually.
Exactly.
But I'm glad I was there when I was there. Let's put it that way. That's a better way to say it.
That's right. That's right. I agree with that.
All right. We'll be back next week to continue all good things with David Cohen, Douglas Viviani on Everything Old is New Again. There's that same outage. There it is. Same music.